This is where the most powerful man in Britain is under close observation. Every branch of government was already under strain, and now this. Downing Street say the Prime Minister, who is 55, was moved to the intensive care unit on the advice of his medical team. He's been given oxygen but hasn't been put on a ventilator. There is one nearby if needed. Senior Cabinet Minister Michael Gove, himself isolating, said Johnson is receiving excellent support.
As we speak, the Prime Minister is in intensive care, being looked after by his medical team, receiving the very, very best care from the team at St Thomas's, and our hopes and prayers are with him and with his family.
Soon after arriving at hospital, Johnson tweeted, "I went into hospital for some routine tests as I'm still experiencing coronavirus symptoms. I'm in good spirits and keeping in touch with my team as we work together to fight this virus and keep everyone safe." But his symptoms worsened on Monday evening. There was clearly much more cause for concern. The Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab will stand in for Johnson where necessary, chairing the government's daily coronavirus meeting in Downing Street. He's an experienced politician, but there's been little time to prepare.
The government's business will continue, and the Prime Minister is in safe hands with a brilliant team at St Thomas's Hospital, and the focus of the government will continue to be on making sure, at the Prime Minister's direction, all the plans for making sure that we can defeat coronavirus and pull the country through this challenge will be taken forward.
Messages of support have been flooding in for the Prime Minister across Britain's political spectrum, including the newly elected leader of the Labour Party.
We will support the government where we can do that, but we will challenge them where it's necessary. But the purpose of the challenge is to make sure that if there are mistakes, they can be put right, or if things need to happen more quickly, they can happen more quickly.
President Emmanuel Macron of France has wished Johnson a speedy recovery. And the US President Donald Trump described Johnson as a good friend.
I found Boris to be a fantastic person, just like a fantastic, warm, strong, smart guy. He loves his country. You see that? I mean, he fought like hell for his country. And intensive care is big stuff.
This is a challenging time for Johnson's family. His fiancée, Carrie Simmons, is recovering from the virus herself. She is pregnant with their first child. They haven't been able to see each other for several weeks. Johnson's personal battle with the virus has shaken the government and the country, just as scientists say Britain is entering one of the most deadly weeks of the pandemic. Neave Barker, Al Jazeera.
Rory Challens is our correspondent in London this hour, joining us from outside the hospital where Boris Johnson is being cared for. So, Rory, do we know any more about how Mr Johnson is doing?
Well, Kim, we had an update from the Prime Minister's spokesperson about an hour ago, and it seems there hasn't been a significant change since the early morning and since he was admitted to intensive care last night. We're being told that he is stable, that he's in good spirits, that he's been given oxygen, but he hasn't been put on a ventilator, and that there has been, as yet, no diagnosis of pneumonia. But the fact is that Boris Johnson is pretty much out of action for the time being. And as we heard there in Neave's report, Dominic Raab is deputising where necessary. Now, the United Kingdom does not have the same kind of constitutionally ordained chain of command as, say, the United States, where it's president, vice president, etc. It's a bit more vague here. But, yeah, Dominic Raab is deputising for now. If he is incapacitated, then Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, steps in. And I suppose with Dominic Raab, we can look at it as, you know, the Prime Minister is still the Prime Minister. He has set the course. Dominic Raab has been given the tiller for a while to keep the ship on track, basically. He can't hire and fire ministers, and any matters of national security are being decided by the Cabinet's principle of collective responsibility.
Rory, talk to us about this new report, this modelling that's come out from the University of Washington regarding the outbreak in the UK. Is that cause for concern?
Well, I think it certainly is, because these figures from the University of Washington, the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the School of Medicine there, are very alarming. They are suggesting that the United Kingdom could have 66,000 deaths at the end of the first wave of this pandemic. Now, that's far in excess of the numbers that the UK was using with its modelling when it brought in the social distancing measures. It was anticipating that with social distancing, it could limit deaths to about 20,000. Well, 66,000 deaths, if that transpires, would put the United Kingdom as definitely the worst hit country in Europe. This same institution is suggesting that Italy, what would be the second worst hit, might have 20,000 deaths. It points to the fact that the UK was comparatively late in bringing in social distancing measures, and what it says is the lack of capacity in intensive care units like the one that Boris Johnson is currently in. But I think perhaps responding to this worrying report, the spokesperson for the PM said, hold on a second, we do have capacity in intensive care units. There's plenty of capacity around the country, and we do have enough oxygen.
Thank you for that update there, Rory Challens, live from London.